How to use a PPF curve to show opportunity cost in A-level economics. First of all, let's have a quick recap of the PPF curve. There are two axes labelled with competing goods. In this instance, we have the labels consumer goods and capital goods. The blue PPF curve shows the maximum potential output of this economy if there were full employment of all of the factors of production. This economy could be operating within the PPF curve at point A. This would be an inefficient allocation of resources, and in this instance we would refer to point A as a negative output gap. And this means that actual output in this economy is lower than the maximum potential shown on the PPF curve. Whenever the output of an economy is on the PPF curve, for instance point B, this economy is efficient. This economy shows pareto efficiency. Pareto efficiency is when production of one good cannot increase without decreasing the production of another good. For instance, if policymakers wanted to increase capital goods from point B towards point C, that would cause a reduced number of consumer goods to be produced. You can consider opportunity cost in terms of time or money. Two personal examples to you might be, if you chose to study as opposed to work, the opportunity cost is the wage that you would have earned had you chosen to work instead of studying. So in this instance, the cost is the missed out wages, and the best alternative foregone was the work in order to achieve those wages. Another monetary example could be that if you choose to buy a Costa coffee, the opportunity cost of that Costa coffee is the benefit you would have gained from using that money to purchase something different, for instance, food. Moving on from the personal examples, the PPF can also be used to show real-world economic examples. This question asks, what is the opportunity cost of an extra 25 consumer goods? In other words, how many capital goods are lost when policymakers choose to increase the production of consumer goods? The PPF clearly shows here that if we increase from 75 up to 100 consumer goods, this causes a reduction from 96 down to 80 of capital goods. So the opportunity cost of 25 consumer goods in this example is 16 capital goods. Now the PPF is often called a PPB, and in this acronym the B stands for boundary. So whether we're thinking of boundary or frontier, it's something that cannot be passed. The economy cannot produce beyond that maximum potential shown by the PPF. If I was to draw point C, for instance here, point C is currently unachievable. In order to produce the combination of capital and consumer goods shown at point C, the economy needs to shift its PPF outwards. Outward shifts of the PPF correspond with outward shifts of the long-run aggregate supply curve. For example, an increase in migration to the country or improved education and training of the workforce. When policymakers introduce this increased training or we see increased migration of workers, we see a shift out, and we can label that shift out PPF2 if we'd also labelled this one as PPF1. Now what's important here is whether we were looking at point A, point B, or any other point on the line, and this is a key point to remember for all economic writing when we're discussing long-run aggregate supply or supply-side policies, is that when we shift the PPF outwards, we've now removed the opportunity cost decisions that policymakers and firms were having to make previously when they were deciding where to focus their production. When we're able to shift the PPF curve outwards to PPF2, we remove that opportunity cost and we're able to increase the number of capital goods or the number of consumer goods without losing the opposite type of good. For instance, here at point A, we could increase capital goods onto the PPF there while still producing 75 consumer goods, or at point C, we could now produce more consumer goods here whilst keeping the original 80 capital goods. Very important analysis and also evaluation that you can use in lots of macro essays. Subscribe using the button on screen now.